Mm. We understand that many of you want answers as far as and guarantees of what is it that's going to happen, and how can we best live in a society or a world or a planet or an existence where there is turmoil. And if you look back at human history, you have all turned out pretty okay. There's more here.
All right. So how can I, as one person, make an impact in decreasing the recent, actually centuries-long rhetoric of race and culture disparities? Is it possible to bring humanity together?
What we want to share with you is this, that when there is a very powerful statement, or when there is a very intense desire, oftentimes you might blow out your own circuits. And what we are saying is that oftentimes what you might want to do is to set your intention that all will move freely, and that the intensity of the energy will move easy. And once you set your intention that way, then all is well, and you will not be disrupted. And this one knows this and keeps things all around her computer and all of the mechanisms and energies that seem to float around with a lot of electronics. And what we want you to know is that you are full of energy as well, and you can be short-circuited. And so what we want to say is that when you are doing any kind of energy work, or when you are asking questions or raising your consciousness to a level of understanding and wanting to be deep, we suggest that you certainly set your intention first and allow the portal that you are stepping into to be easy and with grace. Because what can happen when you do these kinds of experiences at times, it is like when you pour milk into a milk jug, and the film around that milk jug, when you pour the milk back out, stays, and there is a film that lasts, and that film can be a short circuit. In other words, that can be heavy on your body. It can be heavy on your physicalness. Therefore, set your intentions that all is well and that you have ease and grace. And when you connect, meditate, allow yourself to expand however you do it, to say to yourself, when I come back, leave nothing of yourself. In other words, only I am coming back is what you say to yourself. Only I am here. Leave nothing of yourself when I ask you to leave. In other words, when you ask for help or when you expand yourself, oftentimes you can get overwhelmed with help. And that help sometimes wants to stay. And what we want you to do is to practice physically and with your mind, energetically, allowing yourself to release all the Klingons around you, so that all of the mechanical and electrical circuits can be clear and clean, and you can release any of those. Any of you who do body work, any of you who touch people, any of you who allow yourself to be with other energies at times, it is imperative that you have a protocol for this physical self so that you do not short circuit yourself. Now, what we want to say from the perspective of having impact is this, that there is, in other words, a dichotomy from your physical and non-physical, as we have said. It also is a dichotomy of your perspective of what justice is. In other words, what you can do to make an impact, of course, dear ones, is to shine your light, is to be the beacon of light, to turn up your own life force and be the light, and to demonstrate to others what it feels like to have compassion, to have a knowing, to embrace the shadow part of you, to embrace all the parts of you that doesn't feel good or doesn't show up the way that you want it to, and to embrace all of the parts of you that doesn't feel in alignment oftentimes. And instead of resisting it, instead of saying I don't like that, or instead of saying what is their problem and causing divisiveness within yourself and with others, to embrace it all and know it is all part of the mix. And you get to decide what you want to focus your mix on at that moment, in that present moment. Yes, you have emotions. Yes, you get outraged. Yes, you have feelings around what is right and what is wrong, and what is good and what is bad. And again, dear ones, this is duality. In other words, moving toward unity, there is no duality. And in order for you to move towards unity, it is embracing all that is, whether it is good, bad, left, right, right, wrong, all of those things, light, dark. In other words, when you walk into a dark room, it is dark, and you turn the light on and now it is light. Does that mean the dark is gone? Does that mean the light is not there when the dark is there? In other words, if you embrace that it is all the same thing, and it is just your perspective of what you focus on and what you decide you would like to feel at the moment, because you have the ability to feel, and your emotional perspective is your guide as a human being. And the unity that you wish to impart, in other words, most of you, and certainly all of the light workers in the world, are rising up. And of course, you will be met with darkness. Of course, you will be met with the opposite of what you want, so that you can continue to shine your light. We have said before, when you walk into a room and you turn on the light, all of the bugs scatter. And it is your job, if you choose to accept it, to make the impact, is to love the bugs. In other words, to embrace all of those bugs and show them another way. Whether they follow you or not, whether they understand it or not, does not matter. What matters is that you understand that you matter, and that you are shining your light and not hiding, that you are not becoming one of the bugs, that you are not focusing on the shadow and resisting it. In other words, the more you can embrace and feel compassion for yourself and for others, then the divisiveness that is always there, in other words, it is divisive because you are a non-physical being in a physical body. And that, in essence, is divisiveness. And you are learning to embrace that when you come into this body. And it is so with any type of body. In other words, the racial injustice and the economic injustice and the any injustice that you feel that you have been persecuted with, or that others are persecuted with, and how can you be a beacon of light, and how can you make a difference? Again, what we say is this: start with yourself, embracing the love within yourself, embracing the shadow within yourself, embracing all of you, because you are so expansive. It is just a body, it's a suit. It's a suit that you've put on. And this suit that you've put on has limitations, or so it seems, in this third dimension. And just when you are asleep and when you dream, you shed that suit and you fly again. And you are able to do this at any time. You have the ability to do this at any time. That is what transcendental meditation is at times. That is what projecting into different places and different spaces at times is. Dark matter and all of those things that you have studied or looked at or perhaps don't understand. And again, remember, anything that, quote, science has now proven used to be called magic. So any magic that is in your life now, it will one day be proven that it is real and will have an explanation at some point. And in other words, the answer is be the beacon of light. That is the enlightenment that you seek is within you. Turn your pilot light up. Turn it up. Take your hand, put it on your solar plexus, pretend it is a gas light and turn it up. Turn your gas light up. See the blue flame burning bright. It does not burn. It illuminates. And you are the illuminator and the illuminatee. Do you understand?
I do.